something about print is like it's so addictive. And I think it's teaching me how to like even be a better human and how to be more meticulous and how to take notes and like how to like test stuff. And I don't know. It's just it's totally changed my practice and like blown it wide open. And I'm just like so grateful.
Hello, print friends, and welcome. This is a bilingual podcast, so if you subscribe to us, you'll be getting episodes in English with me, as well as in Spanish with Reynaldo Gil Zambrano. Together we speak with people around the globe about their practice and passions in the field of print media and multiples. Did you know that Hello Print Friend is now also a studio and artist residency in Chiang Mai, Thailand? That's right, Hello Print Friend Studios is open and currently accepting applications for our 2026 year. Our studio specializes in stone and plate lithography with additional facilities for woodcut, monotype, and dry point. The residency fee covers housing, all your materials, and 40 hours per week of dedicated collaboration with master printer Timothy Pauschak. Whether you want to create a new edition, immerse yourself in the vibrant culture of northern Thailand, deepen your lithography practice, or so much more, we invite you to apply. Learn more at helloprintfriendstudios.com. This episode is brought to you by Legion Paper. Legion Paper is a fine art paper company that represents the best papers in the world. They either stock it, source it, or make it with brands like Stonehenge, Somerset, Coventry, Reeves, Arches, and more. Legion is the best paper resource for every artist and printmaker's needs. Learn more about the variety of papers Legion stocks at www.legionpaper.com. My guest this week is Jessica Sabogal, an artist whose work lives at the intersection of public space, portraiture, and collective care. Raised in a Colombian immigrant household in the Bay Area, Jess took a winding road from pre-med to political science to the studio in the street, scaling early stencil experiments to landmark murals, all rooted in the practice of print. We talk about her journey to finding her visual voice of bold portraiture rooted in intimacy, interview, and symbolism. As well, we talk about her ongoing collaborative practice with her partner and fellow printmaker Shauna Strauss and their multi-year project, Women's Work, honoring the often invisible labor of women, femmes, and non-binary folk through layered processes like photopolymer, screenprint, and chine collé. And honestly, so much more. I can't wait to share this conversation with you, so without further ado, let's dive in with Jessica Sabogal. Hi Jess, how's it going?
What's up, Miranda? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm so excited to finally get to talk to you. I feel like I have been following your work and seeing it in all the print places that I go to, like print fairs and print week, knowing people who know you and speak very highly of you. So I'm just really excited to get a little hour with you here, get to know you better, get to know your practice better.
Amazing. That's so sweet to hear. Thank you. And I'm so honored to be here. Always hoped to be on the podcast one day. So happy that we're making it happen. And yeah, thanks for inviting me on.
Oh, I'm so glad. So before we get into all of that good stuff, would you please let people know, as you define it, who you are, where you are, what you do?
Whew.
Small questions, I know.
Yeah. My name is Jess Sabogal. I was born in San Francisco. My family's from Colombia, South America. My dad is from Bogota. My mom is from Barranquilla. They immigrated to Texas. And with my older brother, and after a few years there, my mom was like, we cannot do this. We cannot raise a family here. And visited the Bay Area and fell in love with all the languages she heard, the trees, the mountains, the different types of people here. And then they decided they wanted to have me. And yeah, they raised me in a very like immigrant Colombian household. And what that means is that I was only really allowed to pursue becoming a doctor or a lawyer. I did the damn thing. Like I went to UCSD and I pursued pre-med. I did all the calculus and math and I did all the chemistry and everything. And at about halfway, when I was halfway done, I was like, you know what? I really don't thrive in environments where everyone's like out to get each other. I don't thrive in
Mm.
environments where it's like very competitive. I thrive in environments where everybody's like helping each other out. And now I'm like a print shop where everyone's sharing oral histories and stories and, hey, how'd you do that? Oh, I'm happy to share. I love that stuff. And yeah, after that, I started to become politicized. I started to understand, like, with my identities that I hold, that I would live a more difficult life than others. And I changed my major to political science. And I wanted to, my naive 18-year-old self was like, I want to become the president of the United States. I want to learn all the laws so that I can learn how to change them. And that's what I graduated with. And then it was 2009, I believe. And there was a recession, and not a lot of people were giving jobs to like new grads with liberal arts degrees, and that's when I really took to art. I took to art, and over the years, I found ways to say what I wanted to say politically through my art. And the medium, I would say, has changed over the years. I would say I started out with like small paintings with like stencils and spray cans and really learning like how I didn't have a mentor or anything teaching me like this is how you spray a can or
Mm.
this is how you cut a stencil. But over the years, it went from like a 1 layer stencil to a 2 layer to a 4 layer to an 8 layer. Okay, how do we incorporate patterns and textures? Okay. And then I remember after that, the year was like 2013 or 14, and murals and street art was like really blowing up at the time. And not that they haven't been around like since the beginning of time, but I felt like it was really becoming more mainstream, and words and names like Shepard Fairey and Banksy were really becoming like big household names at the time. And I just remember being like, damn, that would be so cool. But I was so scared. I was so like, how the hell do I something that I designed that's 8 by 10, how do I blow that up on the side of a building? Like it didn't make sense to me. And I remember just researching in books and with YouTube and stuff like, how do I do this thing? And my mom and dad were traveling home to Colombia. And I just remember pretending, okay, like I can, if I go there and I try this thing and I fail, like nobody will see me here.
Mm.
Like none of my friends will see me or anything. So I rolled up like this 50-foot stencil and I tucked it under my arm and I went on the airplane and went there and like found other artists there that could help me like find a wall and stuff. And eventually it was like, boom, I have my first big 50-foot mural. And that was just like a simple, like 2 color thing. But I was able to put up a message. And that was like the coolest thing to me, that I think the message says something like, this is an ode to the indigenous women of the neighborhood and of the area and of the country. And I don't know, like the people that walk by every day were like, hell yeah, this is dope. Like, or I saw like how it became theirs and something that
Mm.
they took ownership over as they were like walking to work. And then over the years, it was okay, how do I really understand like my methodology of like colors and patterns and textures? And then I feel after maybe 3, 4 years of that, it was like, okay, now that I have this down, what do I really want to say? What's the message? And yeah, I remember those years were like when Trump first took office.
Mm.
And that was really like the right was becoming emboldened for the first time like in my lifetime. And
Mhm.
that was when I went on tour with a filmmaker named Melinda James and an artist named Tatiana Fazal-Lizadeh, who does Stop Telling Women to Smile. And the three of us went on tour and just put up these like crazy wheat paste and murals all about addressing like whiteness and white supremacy and anti-blackness and anti and homophobia and stuff like that. And that taught me so much about the power of messaging in the street and what it means to take work outside of the institution and to put it in the streets. Like people would deface our work. Like we made the news a bunch of times because people
Mhm.
were so upset about what we were putting out there. Um, and I don't know. So throughout the years, I did my mural thing, and I think now that I'm 38 now. I just turned 38 2 weeks ago. Now it's the last 5 years have really been like filled with my love of printmaking, and I've been doing a lot of printmaking with my partner Shauna Strauss. She's also an incredible printmaker, and we've developed this like beautiful like collaborative practice where she's bringing in like her mixed media on wood painting fine art skills, and I'm bringing in like my skills of like large scale like bold mural style, and then we're combining that to like work on a new third entity that we've created.
Mm.
And so we've been doing that the last like 5 years, and it's been really amazing. I don't know. Something about print is like it's so addictive. And I
Yeah.
think I think it's teaching me how to like even be a better human and how to be more meticulous and how to take notes and like how to like test stuff. And I don't know. It's totally changed my practice and like blown it wide open. And I'm just like so grateful to like a steward of like our press here and our I don't know, just a steward of the knowledge that has been shared with me. I feel like printmaking is such an oral history, and so much of what we learn and do has been like passed down from like my peers and my mentors and just people in different shops. Yeah, so that's a long-winded answer of
Yeah, it was
a little bit about my
beautiful.
practice. Yeah.
I know I loved hearing all of that. And like some parts of it I definitely knew just from knowing you and knowing a little bit of your story, but it's always wonderful to hear the bits in between that you don't have.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that. I would love to hear you talk more about that moment where you went from political science to art, because it does seem you just were like, I didn't do this, so I did this instead. But there must have been a lead up to it. Did you have art in your life growing up, or was there art in your home? Were you aware of it and it was something that you were drawn to up until that? Like, what was that influence right up before it was like 2009 and you're like, okay, I'm not getting I also graduated. I graduated in 2008 with a
Nice.
philosophy degree, so I completely
From where? From where?
understand. University of Washington.
Nice. Oh, I almost went there. And then I went there and
Oh,
I was like, I can't in this rain. That would be so sad. So,
I
so funny.
you made the right choice. Like that was, yeah, looking back on it, I was like, "Oh, I was sad that whole
Yes.
time." Like, now that I actually have
Yes.
the sun. But yeah, so I completely understand that, and that was when I pivoted myself into art. But yeah, I was like, "No one's hiring at the philosophy factory. I'm gonna go be an art historian."
Yes. Yes.
But
I'm like,
yeah, but for you, what was the catalyst or the impetus to make that shift?
okay, to be honest, I was dating somebody that was an artist.
Oh.
And yeah, and okay, so I didn't really have artist friends or family members or anything like that. Like my parents are PhDs and my brother's a PhD. So it was like
Mhm.
this was never encouraged or taken seriously. So I do have very early first memories, and I don't remember a lot from like my childhood or my adolescence, but I do remember that I would draw a lot. Like I would draw like Ren and Stimpy cartoons, and I would draw like realistic things like that, and then I'd show them to my brother and he'd be like, "Oh, that's cool. Now draw like Beavis and Butthead or
Uh-huh.
and I loved it. And I loved it. But it was never like, and then he took me to, I remember this record store called Tower Records when I was 12, and he bought me like my first graffiti magazine, and he
Oh,
was like,
cool.
"It's okay if you don't know how to do this, just copy the letters." So I spent that whole summer after 8th grade just like copying the letters and just like figuring out like how to like land in my own style. And so because he was a DJ, he was like very much into hip hop, and so that stuff was there, but again, it was never like taken seriously. So yeah, after graduating, I was dating somebody, and I just remember the day that she was like, "Let's." I think at the time there was like protests in Egypt, there was like protests in Libya, there was like all
Mm.
these like political things happening, and she's, "Let's make a stencil about it." Like super easy, super like no big deal. And I remember going to Home Depot and buying like 3 cans of black and like a neon green. And I remember she just showed me how to do it. Like, you take an X-Acto knife and you cut out your thing, you print out the stencil at FedEx and then you cut it out. And I remember I was so pumped, like I just sprayed that thing on like canvases for like probably a year and a half. Like I was so pumped.
Mm.
But that's sometimes what it takes is somebody to just crack your world open and be like, this is how you do the thing. And a lot of us, a lot of people didn't grow up with that. So didn't have access to like tools and art and things like that. But so yeah,
Yeah.
I will leave it to her. Yeah. She brought me to the dark side.
We're so glad you're here with us, Jess. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So it sounds like then, like your really first exposure of making art yourself was a print. Stencil is print,
Mm,
right? Yeah. Do
interesting.
you see it that way?
I don't actually. I see it as like street art,
Oh,
maybe,
uh-huh.
but maybe you're right. Yeah, maybe you're right. That's an interesting way to think about it. It's interesting. Lately, I've been thinking about 3D printing, and they refer
Mm.
to them as prints also. And that's when that's like my next move. And I'm like, is this really a print? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What defines a print? What is it? But that's interesting.
I have to say, honestly, I go back and forth on the everything is print philosophy, because
Mm,
sometimes I'm like, I can see it, but then you see like a beautiful Walton Ford etching, and then you're like, that's
mm,
different. Like
yeah.
like something else different is happening here. But it's all intellectual and somatic games that we play, and in the end, it doesn't super even matter, I think, sometimes, like what it is and how we define things, but it's about the effect that it has, the effect that it
Right.
has both on the maker and the receiver, right? This is what we're actually in it for, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so From that early period of having the stencil and doing the street art, what was your journey like developing your distinctive aesthetic? Because I feel like whenever I'm talking with an artist who has a voice that is so clear and so very much theirs, and such a rich source of returning to create in your voice, but able to say so many different things. I know a lot of students listen to the podcast, and I know so many of them, that's what they're searching for. They want to find that for themselves. What was your journey like in terms of experimentation, and then in terms of what it felt like when you found an aesthetic voice that you seem to be comfortable working in and returning to?
I don't know. I think a lot about that first magazine with my brother where he's copy the letters and you will figure out how to do your own, right? And when I was first thinking about my aesthetic, clearly I would say Ernesto Yedena are like
Uh-huh.
descendants of a Shepherd Fairy aesthetic. I think he single-handedly changed like graphic
Yeah.
design and vector art like for like art history, right? And I think that I don't know, one thing I read one time was it's our inability to become him that lands us in our own pool
Hmm.
of like aesthetics, right? And yeah, so it's like we draw from our heroes, like our art heroes, and until we understand what the hell we're doing. And so and yeah, I think it's okay to copy those that you like. I think I read a book that was like, it's like a little stupid book that they sell at FedEx, which is I picked up as I'm printing like a stencil. And it's kind of like the best artists steal.
Mm.
And it's again, okay, what are the things about Shepherd Fairy's art that I like to do that he does that I like? Okay, from that. And then it's okay, where do I go from there? And then in the last couple of years, like I've been really into thinking about my own ancestry. I'm thinking about like archaeology. I'm thinking about like pre-Columbian gold. Literally, like my desk
Mm.
is like stacks of these textbooks of what does this mean and what were my ancestors making that art that they were like trying to say and like all these things. Like these are I'm thinking of them now as like the original artists of like my lineage, right? And so it's okay, perhaps I can take the ruby lit style of Shepherd Fairy's face, but in the clothing, like I'm thinking of, it's like open up my mind in terms of making mandalas. How do I make patterns and remake like these figures and make my own figures? And I don't know. And then it's just, yeah, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but
No,
I don't know. I don't know.
I love what you were saying though about how that idea that, because so many artists I've found, they will be on that journey to find that voice, and they'll be like, I love, love, love this artist,
Right,
but I don't want to imitate them. But then
right.
what you're saying is that
Imitate.
you can never
Yeah,
truly be the artist that you
truly.
admire.
Totally, and I will never be Shepherd Fairy because he's like a white dude making art, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, what is it that I have to say? And he could never be me at this time,
Hmm.
like the reverse of that, because he'll never have the worldview and experiences that I have. So then it's again our inability to become these people will land us like in our own, give us our own like visual language, and that will come with practice. So this is like years and years of doing this. I think I'm in my like 16th year of being like a
Hmm.
working artist. And yeah, now I'm like, I don't even want to do that stuff. I want to do other stuff. It's like we evolve and we change and we grow. And yeah.
I do think that there's something in there a bit about, from my point of view, like American culture of like individualism and the myth of the genius that
Mm,
can get in artists' heads sometimes. Because one of the greatest, I was gonna say there's many great American lines, but one of the big ones is that true success means not relying on anyone, never collaborating, never needing community.
yeah.
And that people who are successful with a capital S, they are just God-born geniuses who dropped onto this land with all of their faculties. And that's why billionaires get to be billionaires, because they deserve it. Like, it's
Right.
all part of that narrative. But I think some of that can sometimes fall into, because it's those sorts of things can be just the water that we swim in, and they get in our bones a bit. And I think I hear sometimes artists speaking in ways that reflect that, even if they're maybe not aware of it, of that, like, I can't draw from someone else. I can't learn from someone else in this way. It has to be completely within me. But
Mm,
it's never true. It's never true in the arc of art history.
right.
You think Michelangelo didn't look at Da Vinci? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's something that, again, having a collaborative practice
Mm.
with my life partner, we run into this a lot where, I'm Colombian American, she's Tanzanian, Canadian American, and the art world is we have our one prize for our single artist, or we
Hmm.
have our one residency for a Latinx artist in Latinx month, or we have our one spot
Right.
for this. And then we come in here and we're like, we don't look like that when we are often negotiating, like making space for the both of us on like
Hmm.
what does an inclusive art space really look like? And I don't know. Yeah. So oftentimes like we'll apply for residencies and yeah, we're often having to negotiate like, well, take us both. You know what I mean? That's our
Yeah.
practice and that's what we're doing. And then people realize, oh, why? Oh yeah, okay, yes, but you can split the honorarium. Or but then
Uh-huh.
we went to women's studio workshop and we presented together. And then first I presented like on my work individually, and then she presented on her work individually, and then we presented our collaborative practice. And everyone was like, oh my God, yes, like individually you're great, but together it's like the magic, right? And then they're like, wait, and I think I made a joke about splitting the honorarium. And then they're like, oh my God, why do we even do that? And so now they're never gonna do that again. And it's
Amazing.
yeah, and I thought that was so cool. And that they're like willing to like on the spot, like change the way things have done for 50 years because they realize, oh, there's no why would you split the money because you're a collaborative. That makes no sense. And then we're hoping that by like being in different, because we've done a lot of residencies, like by being in different spaces, that we're like opening hopefully the doors for lots of different folks that
Yeah.
work collaboratively or that look like us or whatever. So yeah, but yeah, we've definitely come up across a lot of like uh we've come up a lot against the artist is an individual
Hmm.
mentality and like works by themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. And that idea of the artist just being locked away in a room, pacing the floor and suffering,
Mhm. Yeah.
which you don't have to work that way. We don't have to work that way. Like, we can,
We literally make the rules. Like, why?
why?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love for you to talk more about that collaborative practice and, what it is to work collaboratively with someone with whom you also share your life, because of course adds a layer of that. And I can speak from the eye as
Mhm.
well, as my spouse is the collaborative printer at the studio that we run, and it's a fascinating thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's an incredible privilege to have life shake out in a way that you get to be full time with your person, but it can also be complicated too. And I would just love to hear about maybe just the story of how it began. Were you two individual artists? And then as you spent time together, it happened. And then also maybe best practices that you found to make it work and to make the bond stronger through the collaboration, not rattled by it, which I've had both. I've had both
Yeah,
experiences.
great question. That's a great question. So we were both individual artists, and we still are. We've been
Right.
in and out of our collaborative practice. But when we first met, I just got this instinct of I really could see our aesthetic coming together, and I sent her like a Photoshop mock-up of what that could look like in mural form. So the way I did that was like I don't know if you've heard of the artist El Mac, but he's an amazing
Mhm.
muralist, and he has this mural where these two hands are going like holding something, and then I Photoshop like one of Shauna's paintings like really big in the hands, and it's a big piece on wood of like different like an assemblage of wood, and so I was like I could really see something like this because I love doing what has not yet been out in the world, and I was like I could really see that, and Shauna was like, "You're hella crazy. That's too much." And shortly after, I was invited to paint a mural for a Black trans woman called China Gibson, who was murdered. And they wanted me to do like a memorial mural of her in Sacramento. And so I thought this would be like a perfect way to like just remix, uh, to bring our styles together and honor China in a thoughtful and meaningful way. And I thought it came together really beautifully. Like I took a photograph of China's chosen mother, like with her hands up towards the sky. And then Shauna was able to do this big, like visual wooden altar, like in the center that had the photo transfer of China on it and like a bunch of other stuff. And it's still there to this day. And it totally has activated the space. A lot of people come and start like a protest there and then they'll begin like marching or take photographs and stuff. But we always joke because Shauna's, oh, that piece, like we struggled with it because she was like, it didn't quite come together the way we got a long way to go if we're going to keep like trying this. And so then after that, we're like, okay, let's not try to go like 100-foot thing together, like right off the bat. Let's do like a painting or let's start with print. And at that time, I think the pandemic hit and we were both awarded a fellowship at Collé Art Institute. And that's where we work out of now in Berkeley. And they were really the first space to offer us both something together. And I don't know, throughout the years, we've developed a project called This Woman's Work. And it's really through just being like interacting with our families or our communities and realizing that like we're like exhausted and like tired of everyone's shenanigans. And I don't know, it happened so my mom called me and she was like, Jess, so in my family, the patriarchal line is my dad, his name is Fafa, my brother, his name is Alex, and my nephew, his name is Diego. Diego was being really mean to his grandfather, like being really like petty and mean to his grandfather. And I'm like, he's the elder. You can't be mean to the elders. Then, so my mom calls me. She's like, Diego's being hella mean to Papa. And then I'm like, oh, it's because Diego's observing that from his father, my brother, Alex. And it's all these men are just like acting a fool and like causing havoc and like causing tension in the room and all this all the time. And then my mom's, what are we going to do about it? Like you and me, like the women in the family. And I was just like, you know what? I'm so sick of this. I'm so sick of the women like really holding it down in our families and our communities. And I got off the phone with my mom and I checked in with Shauna and we came up with a list right there and then of all the things that women and femmes and non-binary folks do to like up uphold things like invisibly and don't get praised for it. So often I feel like we're the ones like peacekeeping in the families. We're often the ones maybe holding secrets. We're often maybe the ones that like hold like histories of our families or like I'm the one with all the photo albums. Like I'm the one, I don't know, it goes on. And it's even in organization and like organizing spaces. Like the men are the one in the limelight and the women are the ones like getting the grants and like getting the money for things to happen like collectives and stuff. And I don't know. So we're like, what if we did a print project that really like highlights this? And so for the last 5 years, we've been like interviewing different like queer and trans women of color on what does work look like in their lives and what is their individual labor that they perform and yeah and like how can we visually like depict this like in print. And that's when we learned like photopolymer gravure. We like because Shauna does, I almost wish I could show you, she does photo transfer on wood. So we thought, okay, the way to translate that best would be with like photopolymer because photogravure is just ain't nobody trying to do all that right these days, like too much. And we fell in love with it. We learned from like a master printer, her name is Kazuko and she works out of Collage. She like damn near founded the thing. And then we started learning about like chine collé and the different papers. And then we both didn't go, like she went to art school, but like I didn't go to art school, right? And so we both love like knowing the rules of print so that we can break them. And so we're often like putting things together that really shouldn't go together that we haven't seen. And so we're often combining photolitho and photopolymer or like silkscreen and chine collé and photopolymer. And I don't know. I just feel like it's portraiture, especially in the world of print. Like it's something that I know it's out there, but I would love to see more of it. And yeah, and so in terms of like best practices of working together, it's this process has really taught me a lot about leaving ego at the door. Because at first I was like, what does this mean? Like Jessica Sabogal was working with Shauna Strauss, and what does this mean? Like I had my own whole career, and so does she, and I don't know. I feel like the beauty of it is like a piece of paper will go from me to her, from me to her, from me to her for 6 months. And we really know like our strengths. Like I'm a king at X-Acto knifing and like cutting the chine collé perfect to where it needs to be. And I'm like the nerdy one I know about like the printers and like the curves in Photoshop and like all the nerdy stuff. And then she's just like the magic and the like almost like the boss and like she's the one that's like the big picture. I feel like she has the eye for how everything comes together. And I don't know, again, it's like sometimes like we did a print of like her self portrait and then we did another print of my self portrait. And while we were working on her self portrait, it could easily be like, oh shoot, like I'm not really touching the paper. I'm not really, it could be like, oh, and we were producing that print in front of like all our friends for a week. A bunch of us like touched down in Houston. We went to Lita Martin's studio and like a bunch of us were there just like making prints. And so I could easily be like, oh, like what do people think? We're working together, but it's really a print of Shauna. And just like this could be seen as I'm not doing anything, right? But it's like the bigger picture is always, of course I'm contributing. And let's step back and look at the bigger picture of we're producing this whole series of things for years. And just because I'm physically not working on this one piece of paper right now doesn't mean that I'm not equally contributing to like our work. And then we did my portrait. And so it's really taught me a lot about respect and like surrendering really to like each one's strengths. Really, yeah, surrendering to like picking your battles and like knowing, okay, I'm really feeling like this needs to be orange. And if Shauna's like, okay, it could be orange, do your thing. And then there's things that she's really passionate about. Then it's learn when to really advocate and pick that fight.
That's such a good answer. And I definitely identified with a lot of what you said in that, particularly that ability to get into the headspace of checking the ego, of just being like, okay, is this about the burning flame in my heart that truly believes this is the only way this could ever be in order for it to be right? Or is this about this being my idea?
Yeah.
And that is a muscle that one can develop, I think, through collaborative practice. Yeah, no, that was a really beautiful answer. And I'm glad that you brought up portraiture, because I think that's one of the things that just so beautifully shows up in your work. And I'm always so interested in the practice of portraiture because there's so much weight on portraits. And not that not all art subjects can't be weighty, but this idea that this will represent the essence of a human life through their physical vessel. And then there's something so intuitive about it too, where you think about, you mentioned like family albums. I'm also the keeper of the family albums, of course. And that idea of you look through photos and you're like, yeah, that's grandma, that's grandma. Oh, that's grandma. And this idea that there's a way that someone can be represented that is better at capturing their essence as well. And for your practice, when you're going about representing someone, and I think sometimes people can be very specific or they can be like representative of a symbol as well. They serve different functions in that way too. Do you work from photographs? Do you then alter them if you're working with someone who you know personally? How is that process? Because the portraits that you end up producing are just beautiful and powerful, and they have that weight so tangible in them. So how do you do that?
Oh, thank you. Oh, that means so much. Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. So I think when I was first getting started, again, it was like, let's see what pictures Google has and let's do like our famous heroes. It's what can I do? What can I make art about? And then it's okay, let's make a portrait of, I don't know, Dolores Huerta. Let's make things you're supposed to be make when you're first getting started. Let's make a Frida portrait. And over the years, it's okay, we don't need the 750 millionth portrait of Frida. Like what we need is like a portrait of an elder in my community that hasn't been done before. So I've learned, I think through my dad. So it's funny, my dad is a psychologist, but he, since I was born, always had a camera. He always had a camera. He's documenting everything. And the pictures aren't the greatest, but he's there with his camera, like documenting it. And I hated it. I hated in all the photos, people make fun of me because growing up, all my childhood photos, I'm like pissed. I'm like upset, like visibly throwing a face at my dad because he's like stopping to take a photo. But now I'm the same way. Like I always have a camera, very interested in like film photography and just like nerding out on that. And I feel like it relates to print in a lot of ways. But I feel like so I'm like a secret photographer, but I feel like I need the photograph in order to make the work. So now I'm like all about, because, and then it's interesting now because we have AI, right? Which is in a whole nother conversation, but I love being able to like think about, okay, who is this person and how would I like to pose them? Like, how would the portrait be most meaningful? And I think about like different poses before I get to them. And then, yeah, and then spend about an hour with them, like interviewing them, posing them. And then I get home and usually like white out the background. And then it depends where we're going to go. If I'm doing like a digital portrait, then I go the route of like cutting out their shadows in Rubylith. And what's great about that is that can then be scanned to be like the side of a building 80 foot tall, or it can be turned into like a
Mm.
silk screen, right? It could go either way. And that's what I love about like Rubylith. Or if it's going to be like a photopolymer portrait, then I'm thinking about like what papers could like enhance so Shauna and I just shot the portrait of this amazing artist. She's a young Black artist called Tierra, and she's like really young but like free and like luminous. And so we ordered this paper, from Thailand, actually, from like Kozo Studio. Have you heard of them? Oh my God, they're from
No.
Thailand. Oh my God, they're amazing. They're a studio out of Thailand, and they make these like crazy ass Kozo papers made, and one of them's like tie-dye, like neon green and purple,
Oh,
and one
wow.
of them's like neon green Kozo. Like, when the hell have you seen that? You know what I mean? And like neon pink and all this stuff. And we felt like that really spoke to this like person's energy. And so it's like thinking about like how can we use the materials to speak to what this person's like trying to say, or like their message or their version of work. And then comes, okay, if I'm not manipulating the portrait for a vector, then I'm creating usually patterns around them from like our interviews. So for example, in our interview, Tiara said, growing up, I always feel like I had to hold my tongue to like keep the peace. And so then in the
Mm.
portrait, I did a pattern with hella tongues. Like, I wanted to give her all the tongues so that she would be like free, and like all the eyes so that she would be like looking back
Mhm.
and the gaze wouldn't be on her. She'd be like have the power and things like that. And I've really been enjoying like how can these like patterns and symbols and things like enhance, and papers like enhance like their message.
That really makes sense that you have outcomes in your portraitures that are so successful when you
Mm,
tell of that practice that like you're spending time with these people. And I think that is so intrinsic, right? That
mm.
to truly produce something that represents someone, you need to know them a bit, right? I do think that there's something in that. So yeah, that's really interesting. And I was like, yeah, like Jess must do something like that because like
Oh,
they
interesting.
do feel
Cool.
so intimate. They have a feeling of intimacy and that feeling of I don't know this person, but I feel like I'm knowing them better through seeing this representation of them, which,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. Well, thank you. Cool.
Yeah, yeah. So we've talked a little bit about this at some point, but I'd love for you to have a chance to talk about projects or themes that you feel like you're excited to explore or that are on the horizon. You were talking a bit about like pre-Colombian gold, but that just really piqued my interest. One of, I think, my favorite course I took during my graduate degree was on like pre-Columbian art and that
Oh my God.
whole
Where did you go for get your
University of
master's?
Arizona in Tucson.
Oh, nice. Yes.
Hmm.
Oh, we did a project there. It's beautiful there. It's really, I love Tucson. Yeah.
I loved it there. It was a great 2 years there. And
Yeah.
coming from the Northwest,
So
I think
different.
that sun healed me. I really needed to
Yes,
be healed.
totally. I haven't announced this yet, but I actually got into grad school. So at 38, the third time's a charm. I had applied twice before, one fresh out of undergrad as a 21-year-old. I think I applied with like nude watercolors, which is
Huh?
hilarious. Not me at all. Again, you have to start somewhere. You have to try. I think I tried again when I was 26 or 27. I had a few like murals under my belt, but I hadn't really done too much. And then now at 38, it worked out for me. So I will be starting at Stanford in the fall, which is
Amazing.
crazy, totally crazy. Never could have imagined that my life would have taken this turn. But actually, what I'm excited about to do there and what I applied with was like, okay, so I feel like I've done like the big mural thing. I feel like, okay, I did it. Like I feel confident that it's okay. Here's 100 foot wall. Can you do something? I'm like, yeah, no problem. But now it's okay. What's next? Like
Hmm.
what is the next thing? And I am very interested in like public sculpture. And but I'm like, how do you do that? Because nowadays, like artists aren't sitting there like chiseling away at their
Yeah.
bronze statue, right? They are conceptualizing the thing and then getting it sent out to fabricate, which is actually similar to the fine art print world, right? Which is the artists that are selling their stuff for a bunch of money aren't really making the work. They're working with collaborative printers, and the collaborative printers are the ones making the work, which is a whole nother conversation that I think is interesting and we should get into. But yeah, so I'm again obsessed with the gold that and these like little figurines that like my ancestors were creating before the conquest of Columbus. Like they were creating like little things out of beeswax and like melting it down and bringing it back up again and then adorning like there were shamans in it. They were creating like sacrifices and bringing them into the ocean, like the rivers and the lakes and stuff. And if you look at these figurines, they're like half man, half crocodile. They're like half man, half woman. They're going in and out of worlds. They're not really like fully human. And so I'm okay, what would it be like if there was like a giant pre-Columbian statue in the middle of Times Square? What would it mean to have this big gold thing? And how can I use it to maybe create my own figure in order to talk about gender, right? Because now I feel like gender is everyone has their like panties in a twist about trans folks and like gay folks and things like that. And I'm like, there's no kind of, I think my career has been about providing like a voice to people that are like, it's like when the right wing is becoming emboldened, and maybe this is the same like young person that was like, I want to be president, I want to change stuff. I feel like, how can I use this to create like a national dialogue about what's happening to trans folks? Because it's like totally insane. And there's no voices or stories really. There's like little things here and there, but it's everything's being stomped on or killed or in terms of like our voices. And so, yeah, that's like what I'm thinking about, where I'm heading. Like, how can I create, because I was like our bodies and our like anti-trans stuff are in the public every day anyway, so how can I use my art to like combat what is being said about all these like false narratives and things like that? So yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. Yeah,
that's so exciting. So that's going to start in the fall.
yes, I will be student Jess come fall, which is a trip. It's just such a trip. That same narrative of I have to do everything myself and like I have to teach myself and not ask for help. Like that has been me. And so it's weird to like the other day I was like, do I email somebody I want to be mentored under? Is that weird? I just don't know what the rules are. It just feels so odd to be in the position of being in an institution as a student.
They're very lucky to have you. I really believe that. Yeah. And I know that you're going to bring so much to your cohort. And I think there's something really powerful about being a student later in life. And 38 isn't even late in life, but it's later than people tend to do it.
Right.
I look back on my own school experience and think it's so, in some ways, it's bizarre that I felt like I was expected to have something very important to say.
Was that when you went to school? Is that when you went right out of undergrad?
I took a year off. So I guess it might have been like 23. But yeah, I took a year off and I did an internship in DC, and I went and lived on the Navajo reservation for a few months and then went to DC and then just had a little more life under my belt before going. Yeah. But even then it was
we've lived lifetimes since we're 22. You know what I mean?
I do think at 40, what would I have to say? And how much more meaningful I think it would be. So I'm really excited for you, and
thank you.
Super excited to see, where that goes. And hopefully it means that we get to see some monumental public sculptures from you down the road.
Oh, yeah, we shall see. And I'm like, I don't know how print fits into this, but I know print is like how I think about the world now. So it's there. I know it will inform my practice in some way. And maybe the end goal is not a big sculpture. Maybe who knows? But I know that print is like the foundation of all this that I'm thinking about.
Yeah. Another collaborative duo that I talked to in this recording session was Fail, who also have roots in street art through print. They've done even interactive public art with print as a basis. They've done like sort of prayer wheels in Times Square that are just covered in prints that people can spin and all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
So
cool.
Yeah, so they're also mural artists as well. And I think that there really is this amazing, juicy crossover between print and mural and politics and public art and accessible art and all of that That might be my PhD in art history, something like that,
Yes.
because it just feels like there's so much in there. And the place that both, I think, print and mural work can hold culturally can be really similar and
Mm.
really powerful too. And it's a public art in the sense of it, you put it out into the world and it truly becomes the public, like you're talking about your mural of China, right? And how people now use it in a way and for as a gathering place and as a symbol. And so, yeah, I think that all of that is in there in really interesting ways. And yeah, like print will be in there for sure. You
Yes.
can't get away from print.
Forever.
Yeah, man, I feel like I've got so many other questions and you're so easy to talk to, but
Oh,
we're
you
actually
too.
kind
You
of,
too.
thank you. We're coming up on the end point of our time together. How are you taking care of yourself and how are you seeing the fact that we're in a world that the horrors seem to be more persistent and more intense than usual? Your role as an artist, your role as somebody who is making beautiful things, but also meaningful things.
I think something a good friend of mine and mentor has always said, Ani Rivera, is that this is what is it? This is a marathon, not a sprint. It's very easy to like want to take to the streets and to want to, I don't know, blow shit up and just be crazy and just give of yourself in the name of the cause and like fighting the good fight. But I think that we have been like under oppression like before this and we were be oppressed like after this. It just
Mhm.
feels like extra crazy. Don't get me wrong, when I turn on TikTok and all the things, like it's like yesterday my algorithm was like people being like violently deported and then like people coming after like this one athlete in LA. That was like my feed and I was like
Mm.
I cannot look at this. It's way we're not meant to consume news like that. And so on the one hand, I feel like I don't know, I feel like a lot of people are probably like I'm really being intentional about the community that I'm around, about taking time to like really be with my loved ones and like really get nourished by my friends and family and community. Like that feels like I'm more intentional about that these days. I'm also intentional about, I feel like I'm moving a little bit slower. I'm trying to read a lot more. I'm trying to like, and maybe this is just because I'm going to school. It's like, how can I like slow down and take in information at a pace that feels like regular? And yeah. But on the other hand, it does feel like, I don't know, all of a sudden it feels like my life's purpose is to do what I told you about, which is like I felt it in 2016, which was like, let's go and fuck shit up in the streets. Let's talk about white supremacy. But right now it feels like, yo, we need to be really coming up with like counter narratives about trans folks because I don't really feel like that exists in the mainstream yet in a positive light. And so that really feels like a newly important and aligned. So yeah, what did I want to say? Because I come my whole, I think from the way I operate is and what I want to tell like listeners is a lot of people are not seeing the connections between trans rights and women's rights, like trans rights and like black rights, trans rights and ICE, trans rights and all it's like it's all connected. We're all being oppressed by the same folks and it no longer serves us to just be like Colombian pride or Mexican pride or Black Lives Matter without all of us. I don't know. Yeah, that's like the way that I operate now is how can I create like a safe space for all and help people like everything is connected. Yeah. And yeah, so I feel both those things. Like I want to be slow and I want to hang out with my friends and just do dumb shit. And dilly dally is the word that I'm saying. I just want to dilly dally today and
I
just
love it.
and take back my time and do things that nurture me. And
Mhm.
I feel also like I need to just be really being thoughtful and intentional about what am I going to be putting out to like combat what is being said about our community.
I really think that's a wonderful answer because it's like that balance between the self-care and like being so aware that the world has changed and it is changing and that we can't pretend that what we put out into the world is not going to be received and have effects in different ways.
Yeah.
But we can't be making anything in the world if we're burnt out, if we're, yeah, that was a really thoughtful answer. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And Wicked helps. Like watching lots of Wicked
Yep.
has been helpful.
joy.
And like the trailer, the trailer
having
just came
joy.
out yesterday. I don't know if you saw it, but the trailer for Wicked Part 2 came out yesterday. I don't know if you're, oh, you must
I have not.
have.
I just woke up here in Thailand, so
Oh,
so I'm 12 hours behind the latest Wicked news drop. Yeah. Amazing. I will look that up definitely when we say goodbye. But yeah.
Perfect.
Amazing. Jess, thank you so much for your time. I just have so many more things I feel like we could talk about. So I really hope we get a chance to work together again and see each other again.
Yes.
I would love to welcome you and your partner here in Chiang Mai for residency.
Thank you. We will be there. Oh, we will be there, definitely.
Amazing. And yeah, where can people find you and follow you and learn about your journey and all of that?
Yeah, I guess on Instagram, my Instagram is at Jessica Sabogal. My collective name with my partner is Taller Sana. That's spelled TALLERSANAA. Yeah, you can catch us there. And yeah, thank you so much. It was so sweet to meet with you and to talk with you, and all the best in Thailand. Congratulations.
Thank you. If you like today's episode, we have a Patreon where you can support our podcast and help get bonus content, like Shop Talk Shorts with past guests. But the very best thing you can do to support us is listen, rate, follow, and share with your print friends around the world. This episode, like all episodes, was written and produced by me, Miranda Metcalf, with music by Joshua Weber. I'll see you in 2 weeks.